You've made it to Chiro Hustle Live. Sit back and learn from the greatest influencers in the profession. This week's episode is brought to you by Clothes for Chiro, Legacy Wealth Management, Posture Screen, Chiro Thin, Imaging Services, Zingit Solutions, Peter Goldman's Zone School of Healing, Everest Coaching Systems, Universal Tractioning Systems, Rhino Coaching, Chiropractic Jobs Online, and Chiro Matchmakers. Let's hustle. Hey guys, first and foremost, I want to welcome Dr. Amy Haas. She is out there in the Atlantic Northeast in New Hampshire, and I am coming in from Grand Junction, which is in the Grand Valley on the western slope of Colorado, which I like to say it's where no one lives, and I moved here to hear the birds chirp, and I certainly get that opportunity. But before we get into this whole episode of the Chiro Hustle live stream, I want to thank our sponsors. That is Chiro Matchmakers. If you guys have any needs of getting a job in the chiropractic profession or getting placed in the marketplace, reach out to the Chiro Matchmakers, and I'm going to flash their website up on the bottom of the screen quickly before we get jumping in and talking with Dr. Amy. And thank you guys so much for supporting Chiro Hustle, because you do help keep free speech alive and well in the chiropractic conversation, and helping us bring chiropractic more culturally available to those out there that might not understand what chiropractic is or who it's for or how it might help them. So thank you for sponsoring the Chiro Hustle podcast. So with that being said, I just want to really say thank you. I'm so excited to talk to you today, Dr. Amy, and thank you for being with me.
Thank you for having me. I'm very honored.
Well, you are episode 76. I'm super stoked about that. And if you guys want to hear that episode in the description up above, you can click on that link and listen to Dr. Amy's episode of Chiro Hustle. All right. So let's jump right into this. And I know one of the things that we wanted to cover today is talking about science and neurology. Let's just lay down the basics for people. Science and neurology within chiropractic, how do they play together?
Oh, that's a big topic. How do science and neurology play together in chiropractic? They dovetail perfectly.
And when we think about that, we think about there's a science and philosophy art of the beautiful profession of chiropractic. And I know that you came into the profession not as a chiropractor, you came in from a research standpoint. And how have you learned to understand the research side of the science compared to the chiropractic side of the profession that you serve in now?
Let me try to wrap that question into a directed answer. As a scientist, I'm always wanting to understand how things work, how the puzzle fits together, and how is the latest evidence consistent or inconsistent with the natural laws of the universe. There's some things in science that are consistent with the natural laws of the universe, and there are some that are not. There's an argument that the use of small molecule drugs to attempt to regulate the function of the body from the outside is, in fact, contrary to the natural order. There's a time and a place, but it is interfering with nature. So here's where things become interesting with chiropractic. I came to chiropractic as very much a skeptic, as a non-believer, as some people would call it, or you could extrapolate that to a different way of putting it. Show me the data. Show me how it works. Don't just tell me it works. Show me how it works. And that's my perspective as a scientist. I want someone to share that with me in a way that is believable, understandable, and consistent with the laws of the natural universe. And the more I have deepened my understanding of chiropractic, I've been in practice for 10 years now. Which amazes me. I don't know how the heck that happened. When I interact with patients and watch them heal and understand how chiropractic care is affecting their body and creating and restoring the freedom with which their body can best adapt to whatever problem they've encountered, and I just watch the body's health recover, it's an amazing privilege that shows me, as measured by what? How does chiropractic work? It works by I'm sorry, I just lost my train of thought there.
No, it's completely fine. And I think that what you said is that like the chiropractic process, it's a process. And one of the things that you said in the poll quote that we used was adaptability and outcomes. And I think that as you became a practitioner of 10 years and me working in the profession for 9 years, it takes a while to develop your certainty and your voice and find out where your soul genius is. And I think that coming from the research and the scientific background that you did, coming into this natural healing profession, which has these principles attached to it and this, historical resonance of languaging that we stay true to, like innate intelligence and subluxation. Now we've taken the philosophy and we've married that with the science.
Mhm.
And, and then what you said is over time, you realized how to assimilate this knowledge and to adjust the patient and allow their body to find the outcome, which is adaptability.
Absolutely. And how does the science support that whole process? The science is biology, it's biochemistry, it's how everything is connected intrinsically and regulated from the inside by innate intelligence. So that's how it's all connected. And that's the power that we access when we are restoring freedom to the system, freedom to adapt as well as it can by correcting vertebral subluxation with the specific chiropractic adjustment. The design of that is to improve adaptability in the body, and that applies across the board. If a body is better able to adapt, it is healthier.
And I know that you've had being a chiropractor, you've had firsthand opportunities to see one of the shirts I just bought says "Expect Miracles." You've seen the miracles happen, and I know that there's maybe a few stories that you might want to share with us about how you've seen the adaptability happen from a stance of when I got into chiropractic, guys. Just as for the audience, I learned that the organ system was supposed to be organized, that everything under the hat had a direct correlation to the spine. And if the spine was out of alignment, then there was going to be a direct correlation to dysfunction in that organ that was going to that segment in the spine, which I then learned that was called a subluxation. And then by restoring the body into balance again, removing that subluxation, the organ system is allowed to start flowing the way it's supposed to instead of having disease and dysfunction going towards it. So that's from a layman's perspective of somebody that does not have a degree in chiropractic, but now as an educated layperson, I would like for you to talk a little bit about how the body transitions from subluxated state to organizing the organ system from correcting vertebral subluxation.
Okay, I'm going to take this from a more bird's eye perspective, just for fun. The first thing I want to talk about is a concept called dynamic equilibrium. Homeostasis is balance. It is two ends of the seesaw that are opposing each other. They might be up, they might be down, but they're static. Dynamic equilibrium is movement. It is trajectory. It means is the system moving towards more order or towards more disorder or towards higher levels of complexity, which means higher function. If a system is moving towards decreasing complexity or more order, that is actually an obstruction to adaptation. You have less wiggle room to deal with the problems you've got. Does that fair? Make sense?
It does. And I think that, that touches on that whole idea of outside in perspective. Like I'm going to take something from outside in that's going to make my body function better.
Right. The body should know how to function and balance itself. But if you take something from the outside, which can actually interfere with the body's natural processes of regulation, it may have outcomes unintended from the input of the small molecule drug. So increasing chaos and increasing order versus increasing complexity versus increasing order. Blood pressure medication is actually a fantastic example of this. And this is something that I learned from James Chestnut's work. So this is not my example, this is his. I'm just going to kind of pay it forward to your audience. When someone takes a blood pressure medication, the intention of that small molecule drug is to limit the fluctuation of blood pressure. Let's say say someone goes into their PCP and their blood pressure is 145/90, and the PCP says, "Oh, I'm going to put you on a drug," and they give lisinopril, whatever the heck you want to call it today, and the blood pressure will decrease to 120/80, 110/70. Is that good or bad? Well, we're going to go to the Chinese proverb. Is it good or bad? Who knows? In this particular case, I actually think it is good in one respect because it decreases the spiking of blood pressure, which can be damaging to the body. But on the flip side of that, the potentially unintended consequence of taking a small molecule drug to regulate the body from the outside is that you have told the body it has limits. If the body has limits, that is an obstruction to the body's ability to fully adapt as it sees fit. What if there was an instance where increasing your blood pressure momentarily was actually completely physiologically appropriate? And all of a sudden you're taking this small molecule drug, which is limiting your blood pressure. Your body can no longer achieve that higher blood pressure. You have obstructed your ability to adapt.
And I think what happens over time is a person's body becomes less adaptive because it's being told to not signal the way it's supposed to.
Yeah.
And we can take something as very granular as one concept within the whole spectrum of what we're looking for. And this is just like if you looked at like a map of the world, this would be like just one little country within that whole map of the world. And I think that understanding that there's a lot of border relations that we have to have with other, countries or other places or other cities or other states, there has to be border relations. And I think when we go after one thing and we don't pay attention to the greater scope of the rest of it, what are we really achieving?
That's it's interesting that you bring that up. That, in a nutshell, is one of the reasons that I left biotech and the career track that I was going to be entering into big pharma, because I recognized that as a biochemist, I had studied in depth that everything really, really is connected. Anybody who's studied the interconnections between the Krebs cycle, fatty acid metabolism, and protein metabolism, they all do interconnect. They share metabolites, they swap between each other. You cannot impact one without impacting the other two. That is true within the entire body, within the organ systems, as you're talking about. You cannot impact one thing in the body selectively and ignore the rest. So when we think about these small molecule drugs, which in theory were a great idea, you're affecting one thing in the body. How can you ensure that you're affecting that one thing and nothing else? Here's the kicker. We all know that phase 3 clinical trials are, the FDA-regulated phase 3 clinical trials are when a drug is released to market. Agreed?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, what's phase 4?
Testing, right?
Yep. Phase 4 is when a drug has been, it's not officially phase 4, but it's when the drug has been released to market and a lot of people take it. When a lot of people take the same drug over an extended period of time, you can finally look retrospectively, statistically, epidemiologically, are there any other things that are a result of that drug? For instance, Fenfen and Vioxx were two. Vioxx, I'll use that one as a classic. 27 years ago, Vioxx had been out on the market and people have been taking it for 10, 15, 20 years. Epidemiologically, a statistician discovered that there was a strong correlation between people who took Vioxx and people who were having heart problems. And it turns out there's actually a very strong connection. And I believe it was actually proven to be causative that Vioxx, yes, it's reducing pain while it's destroying your heart. I mean, minor details, but you don't actually see that until 10 years down the line. So phase 3 clinical trials is when a drug is deemed safe, as safe as possible, having not studied it over a long period of time. You really don't know what it is doing to the body as a whole and all of its interconnected systems until you see the long-term perspectives of that. So that's one of the reasons that I left biotech and the pharma career track is that I recognized the potential flaw in that.
Well, what you're saying there, Dr. Amy, makes me want to interject and say, I think that there's a time and place for everybody to have some type of a medical intervention for themselves, whether it's chiropractic care, whether it's crisis care, and you need somebody to give you something. But I've never met anybody that took any type of medication long term that had more vitality or better quality of life. And that's just a component to dosing the body with some type of an outside in source. We could even get down granular and talk about like maybe alcohol. I've never met anybody that had better health capacity that used alcohol in a micro dosing, that bodies perform better and that had better metabolism and had better quality of life downstream, as opposed to somebody that might be micro dosing something for their blood pressure. I've never met anybody that takes anything consistently for anything, whether it's, like I said, alcohol or some type of a medication from an outside in perspective, that got better vitality and better quality of life and better, health markers or better health outcomes or better adaptability for that measure. And, me being a non-doctor, it's hard for me to like say that, you're wrong for doing this or that person's wrong for doing that, or you're bad for smoking or you're bad for doing whatever personal choices that you make. But I do know that when people start getting checked for vertebral subluxation and adjusted as necessary, have a better outcome for quality of life. And a lot of this goes even more granular now, though the research is being done that the adjustment is having a positive influence on the physiology of the human experience. And that's measurable because of some work that you've been doing recently with heart rate variability. You're realizing that one part of the organ system that's organized under the head going down controls outcomes. And it controls measurable instances of where somebody was before chiropractic and where they are now.
Absolutely. One of the basic recipes for health that I give to any of my patients is give the body what it needs, take away what it doesn't, and give the body time. And the body will adapt if it can. So when you think about that string of words, where does diet fit into there? Where does nutrition fit into there? Where does avoidance of things that obstruct the body's health fit into there? And where does subluxation fit in? And where does the adjustment fit in? Clearly, the adjustment at the end fits in by helping to restore or optimize adaptation by restoring freedom in the system. HRV is a reflection of the degree of adaptability of the system. Low heart rate variability. Well, let's take a step backwards. Let's distinguish heart rate versus heart rate variability, because there are some people in the audience who have not been introduced to that distinction. Heart rate is beep, 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 is how many beats per minute. Heart rate variability is variation in the duration of time between successive heartbeats. It should be variable rather than metronomic. The degree of variability is a reflection of how well your entire body as a system is perceiving its environment, all of its environmental signals, inside, outside, your lungs, your kidneys, your GI tract, taking all that information, summarizing that in your brain, and then executing an appropriate and timely adaptive response. Information in, integration, execution of response. That is adaptation. And that's where heart rate variability is a reflection of the body's summary adaptation to its environment. And heart rate variability improves with chiropractic care. And I'm certainly not the first person to notice this or document this. Actually, started probably 2008 or prior with John Zhang's study, and then CLA and Fletcher and the gentleman over at CLA, Chris Kent and Pat Tempo, took that finding from Zhang and said, hey, this really applies to chiropractic. And that's when they started creating HRV software so that we as practitioners can measure someone's variability, adaptability, heart rate variability, adaptability, before they start care, after an adjustment, and often it improves, or over a course of care. So there's been several papers using heart rate variability that established in peer-reviewed literature that heart rate variability can improve in a sustained manner over a course of care directed to correct vertebral subluxations. So Danny Knowles and Rochelle Knowles put out a paper very supporting that, and Curtis Fedorchik put out a paper supporting that. And then there was mine and Dave Russell's paper. So those are three separate independent peer-reviewed research papers that show heart rate variability, adaptability, improves with corrective chiropractic adjustments.
You know, what you said there makes a lot of sense to me. And I tell everybody this is once you start getting chiropractic care and getting adjusted, all else follows. It's kind of like the BJ Palmer thing, get the big idea, all else will follow. And the big idea in 2018 transition to 2019 is getting the adjustment. And getting adjustment allows your body, like you said, to experience its dynamic freedoms, and to then we can have influence on what doctors want to get their patients to understand is to once again go back into James Chestnut's wheelhouse is to eat well, think well, move well. And if we follow the eat well, think well, move well, but first we start with the adjustment, then we can start to capitalize on these life-changing aspects of what the chiropractic profession delivers, which is the adjustment. You know, my ideal target client, I just did an avatar recently, and their profession is chiropractor, but their title is adjuster. And I think that if all chiropractors go back to that balance of understanding that their primary is to be the adjuster and they are a chiropractor, and once they get the big idea to their practice member, all else will follow. And I think that that's the relationship bond that you get to make with people. But over time, when you start restoring people's functionality back to them, they start to wake up, if you will, and they start to realize that the life that they once knew isn't the life that they need to possess. And then they can start to make better life decisions. And so much of this, Amy, comes from discipline. Like, are you disciplined to become a chiropractic patient or a practice member? Are you disciplined to watch what you eat? Are you disciplined to watch your functionality of your body and your physiology so you don't need to have outside in perspective getting you healthy? Are you disciplined enough? And I think a lot of it comes back down to what we pay attention to, our behaviors, and our discipline to stick and stay the course. And I think that's why research for chiropractic is so essential, because it is showing people that do stay the course, their life does have better outcome and their body does start adapting and they have better health restored to them because they allowed the chiropractic lifestyle. You've made it to Chiro Hustle Live. Sit back and learn from the greatest influencers in the profession. This week's episode is brought to you by Clothes for Chiro, Legacy Wealth Management, Posture Screen, Chiro Thin, Imaging Services, Zinget Solutions, Peter Goldman's Zone School of Healing, Everest Coaching Systems, Universal Tractioning Systems, Rhino Coaching, Chiropractic Jobs Online, and Chiro Matchmakers. Let's hustle.
Yep, it's all about adaptation, really. Give the body what it needs. It needs food, water, sleep, good nutrition, their spiritual needs, physical needs. Take away what it doesn't. What does the body not need? Toxins, negative thoughts. The body doesn't need subluxation. Give the body what it needs, take away what it doesn't, and give the body time to adapt. Time, no way around it, and adaptation is improved by the adjustment.
And I think that that's something that's so rudimentary for the chiropractors to understand, but there's other people out there that are going to get this message and they'll start to understand that the chiropractic lifestyle is essential and the adjustment should come first. And then the healthy habits that are a part of that are the win. That's what you win. You win a healthier you by getting adjusted. And I think that that's what everybody wants to know. Anything that they do, what's in it for me? Well, I think that when people start getting adjusted, their big win is an improved quality of life.
I have a new person who just started, and it's been a really interesting process to watch him in his first month of care. He came in stating he was for wellness care. And I looked at this young man, and you never want to make your patient wrong. But I looked at him and I'm like, you are not here for wellness care. You are sick. And I'm thinking in my mind, does this person understand that they are sick? It is not normal, to not be able to sleep. It is not normal to be depressed. It is not normal to be anxious. It is not normal to not be able to stand up straight. It is not normal to not be able to breathe in deeply. It is not normal to be in constant pain. It is not normal to be fighting your way through everyday life. But this was the expectation society had set for him. That was it. That's normal. No. So facing him with that mirror and saying, okay, I respect, I understand where you are, I appreciate where you are, and totally cool. That's your paradigm. I'd like to take that box and open it and expand the space in the box to a greater space around it, because there's something more you may not know is possible yet. So I see where you are. I'm going to guide you towards a greater possibility by sharing with you the freedom that is conferred or restored back to you when you're adjusted. And we're just going to see what your body does. So creating that space, recognizing where he was, that this is our cultural perception of wellness, which is so huge.
And that's just,
What?
no, you're making some really good, valid points there. And most people just don't realize that they are actually sick, but that's their survival mechanism that they're in.
You can't understand that the light has been dimmed until someone draws the drapes across the window and lets the light in. And then you're like, oh yeah, I was sitting in a dark room. And I saw him today, and this kid has a whole different life in front of him. His entire trajectory has been changed. His cheeks are pink, he's standing up straight, he's exercising, he's walking around, he's not anxious anymore, he's sleeping normally, and he's like, this is what life is supposed to be. How did no one ever tell me this? That's the promise of chiropractic.
I love it. And it all starts here. It all starts in this thing called the Atlas. And that's where the life force comes in from the brain and the body. And we were talking about this off of camera when we were just kind of getting pre-chat banter going, is when you talk about the adaptability, and now you're talking about like real life instances, there is a connection between this and this, correct?
Better be.
But, you know, I think that that's one of the most important things that we could drive home today to tell people, is that a healthier you equals a healthier heart, but it also equals a healthier mindset. And I think that that's really outcome. That's outcome, not specific so much, but generalized, and saying, hey, if you start getting adjusted, you have the opportunity, if you're disciplined enough, to stick with good, proper care, to have these better quality of life outcomes. But it's staying true to the principle of chiropractic, is when they are subluxated, to correct it. And when the patient knows that they are scheduled to see the chiropractor, their doctor, that the chiropractor will check them and adjust necessary. And I think that that's a huge bridge that we need to get over with communication, to allow people to know that, hey, there's no instant gratification within the chiropractic adjustment. It's a lifelong journey, just like eating right, just like education, just like any type of thing that we want to have positive outcomes with. It is a lifelong journey.
It is, but you can get some forms of instant gratification within each chiropractic adjustment that show immediate outcomes. And when you do that, you can get into a patient's brain in a different way to show the reality of that possibility that you're trying to introduce them to or guide them to. My job as a chiropractor is to see the greater possibility for any of my patients, and then take them by the hand and guide them to that greater possibility. There's trust involved there. They've got to know that I am in integrity, and I know what I'm doing, and I know that I can help them get there. But to feed their brain along that process, there are ways to have little bits of instant gratification that the patient knows their body is changing. One of my favorite ways to do that is having a patient, before they've ever been adjusted, I'll have them on the table and I'll say, okay, take a really deep breath. Okay, do it again, do it again. Do you have a sense for how far your lungs can expand where you are right now? And so they get a good solid baseline understanding where they are. I know they're restricted. They don't know they're restricted. They're in the box. I see the greater possibility. So I say, okay, you see where you are, and then I deliver an adjustment to restore freedom to the system, both physical and neurological. The brain's ability to regulate the lungs, expand the muscles, and actually function optimally and appropriately. And 9 times out of 10, the patient on the table, if I've identified the subluxation correctly, they will, after the adjustment, be able to take a much deeper breath. And if you've established that firmly at the beginning, this is what it feels like to breathe. Adjustment. Okay. This is what it now feels like to breathe. Do you see there is a distinct difference? Do you think breathing deeper makes you healthier or sicker? Do you think breathing deeper would make your life easier? Would it improve your athletic ability? Would it improve your clarity? That one simple aspect of one adjustment can change so much. And then you can extrapolate that to many different areas where the patients can perceive differences and tune into their own bodies. My other favorite with that is sleep. I mentioned that this young man is sleeping better. What implications does that have for his whole life if he can sleep better? When you sleep, your body repairs. If you're not sleeping, your body's not repairing. So if you're sleeping better because you're getting adjusted, then your health is improving.
Yeah, a lot of these points that you make drive it home is vital lung capacity has a lot of functionality that goes into the organ system, which is the lungs and the cardiovascular system, but it also comes out into the metabolism system. And how people metabolize things is when they do actually get to go into regulatory sleep patterns, the body goes into cellular repair. And when the body does not go into cellular repair, then the body starts building toxicity and it starts getting sick. And a lot of times that really clogs up the mental capacity and for our personal drives. And it will make us think that we are in that box. And it will make us think that we're assimilating normalcy because of what we've adapted to, which is a lower quality of life at a lower frequency of existing. And we kind of adapt that and say, that's me. That's me today.
It's just sitting in a darkened room, having no idea that the lights can be turned up.
So let's transition the conversation. I know we're coming up on our edge of time together today, but let's talk a little bit about this group that you've joined with the Steinbergs, and it's called Chiro Nerves, and why you guys kind of brought this together and where this might be taking you in the new year.
Bruce and Jen and I are nerd breeds. We love learning. We are all lifelong learners. And Bruce's angle and my angle on science are just a little bit different, but overlap and they're complementary. So what we really want to do is take our joy of learning, joy of reading, and myself and many of my friends were always tossing articles between us because that's what nerds do. And what we want to be able to do is take relevant articles that have bearing on the chiropractic profession, bearing on subluxation, on health, and read them through a chiropractic lens and then offer them to the profession as inspiration. This is why we do what we do. This is how science and chiropractic are so dovetailed, internally consistent. This is how what we do is consistent with the natural laws of the universe. That's the overall scope of what we want to do, and just inspire and empower our fellow chiropractors to take that science and integrate it into their practice in a way that will mean something to them and help their patients to understand the bigger significance of the care they're receiving.
Yeah, I think it's really cool to take your guys' looking glass and to make sense of it and to break it down for people and to have a platform for people to actually start to get good information and to be in that loop of communication. And I really do believe that the more that we have positive conversations on topics that you're discovering, it helps build up the cultural semblance of the profession. And the more certainty of cultural semblance within the profession, the stronger the message is. And I think that a lot of times, if we can just build up a little bit more certainty in the messaging behind what chiropractic is and what it isn't, we get a chance to have that badge of honor that we can put in front of us for protection to say, I'm certain. I know what I'm doing is delivering the goods. I can say we're delivering the goods, but now I know because of this brand that you bring to the marketplace with Chiro Nerves is explaining the papers and explaining the research and explaining. I think that's really the thing is people, there's not a lack of information out there anymore. There's there's a lack of how the information is gathered and then presented.
Oh my goodness, there is so much information out in the basic science literature that beautifully supports chiropractic. We have that is meaningful for all of there. When I research literature, my jaw dropped. This is chiropractic in a nutshell. And this entire field of heart rate variability, which goes across physiology, psychology, cancer biology, cardiovascular physiology, all of these different disciplines are all showing the same thing, that heart rate variability is a reflection of adaptability. And they've done our work for us, literally. All we have to do is take this entire field of work and say, hey, and we improve HRV.
Well, certainty is where it's at. And I think that what you said is this could be Pandora's box for certainty. And I think that understanding that the research and the science and the literature is being created and that how well it marries into the chiropractic science, philosophy, and art is very important. So as we start to expand and grow, we don't need to have more ability to do prescription rights, but we need to have more ability to take care of people where they are and be able to take care of them with the ideas that we know that are founded in science based on how the bodies are performing. And I think that that's the most important thing is for people in the chiropractic profession to take what we're talking about today, build their certainty within their messaging, and then to say, you know what, like I said, we are delivering the goods, and this is why.
If more of us understood with certainty and integrity in our hearts what we are doing changes adaptability, changes the freedom in the body, and enables the body to govern its own systems and optimize its own unique physiology. If more people really owned and understood that, there would not be a drive within our profession for practitioners to use small molecule drugs to interfere with the body's physiology. Either we can optimize the physiology, set it free, and help it to adapt, or we can interfere. And somehow, if we are both looking to prescribe drugs, interfere with physiology, and looking to restore freedom, those are diametrically opposed. And there's inconsistency there that it just makes no sense to me. And that's me as a scientist. That makes no sense to me. Well, it's absolutely amazing with the chiropractic adjustment that we see patients getting better under care. That seems like the simplest thing. But me with a doctoral master's and a doctoral degree in biochemistry and a doctor of chiropractic, I'm seeing this every single day. We have something unique and special. We don't need to muddy that and silly that with doing what everybody else does. We need to do what we do.
Yeah, and that's a big message. I just got the hair on my arm just stood up because we have to be certain in the messaging, and we have to know that you can't be both. And historical reference will tell you that chiropractic is unique and distinct, and that protecting the sacred trust is something that we have to take very seriously. Me being a non-chiropractor, knowing that it's a chiropractic responsibility to protect the sacred trust, and there's not a pill or potion or lotion that will ever supplement the effect of a chiropractic adjustment. We have to go back to where baseline lanes are, know what our lane is, and the chiropractic profession is based on the words chiropractic, which is done by hand. And I think that when we understand the historical reference to the profession and how chiropractic has grown into this healing art, that chiropractic is, it's a part of the conversation, but it's not medicine. And it's a part of the conversation, but it's not doctoring. It's a part of the conversation, but it's chiropractic. And I think that when we come back to that resonance of chiropractic is very special. and it's very unique to the chiropractic practitioner, that with more certainty, the chiropractic profession becomes the go-to necessity for people that are having any type of health conditions, because if you agree or you don't agree out there listening, that when the body gets adjusted, it has a better quality of existence than one that's not getting adjusted. And that's why I think eventually people will demand chiropractic services, because it stays unique and it stays, holistic to the fact that people are delivering the goods by doing proper exams and knowing where the body's misaligned. But the chiropractor comes into the certainty to say, this is my lane, this is what I do, and you guys go do that. And if you guys wanted to introduce those type of ideas, then do it to that group, because they've already ascribed to doing that. Our group doesn't. So please keep your boundaries and your borders safe with us.
And may I add one? I love what you just said. I'd like to add one more piece to it. We chiropractors have a responsibility to deliver an experience to our patients. I'll just let you go with that, but it's the experience, it's the change, if we don't deliver an experience to our patients, we're not doing chiropractic justice.
Well, I know that we've gone over our time a little bit today. I appreciate you making some time today, Dr. Amy, and to be able to talk to our audience. If you guys want more information on Dr. Amy's episode with Chiro Hustle, go to episode 76 on the Chiro Hustle podcast website. And I want to say once again, thank you to the Chiropractic Matchmakers group out there for sponsoring the Chiro Hustle live stream today, allowing us to keep free speech alive and well in the chiropractic conversation, and to be able to shine a big spotlight on the people that are out there doing the ground level work, growing the beautiful profession of chiropractic and letting it stand in its own lightness, which is the healing arts of chiropractic. And there's not a pill, a potion, or a lotion that's ever going to supplement the effect of a chiropractic adjustment. So, Dr. Amy, thank you for the hard work that you do and continuously carrying the torch for vertebral subluxation conversation, and making sure that everybody out there knows that the body adapts better when it is adjusted.
Thank you for allowing me to contribute to your program. I hope what I've put forth is of use to someone.
Awesome. Well, I want you to have a blessed rest of your day, and we will catch you on the next time, okay?
Sounds great. Thank you.
All right. Thank you, Doc.
Thank you for listening to Chiro Hustle Live. Don't forget to subscribe and check back next week to continue hustling.